4 million and counting. Refugees in Jordan's Zaatari camp didn't think the conflict in Syria would last this long or force this many people out of their country. Thaer Al-Hushan is one of the camp's oldest residents. He says 2.5 years later, he's finally adjusted to life as a refugee, but had this reaction when we told him the number of refugees in the region had reached 4 million.
This is a disaster. It means the entire population will eventually be displaced. This makes me feel that our conflict will drag on for years and then a return to Syria as soon as impossible.
From the camp's oldest residents to its newest arrivals, Usama Akrad from Dar'a had lived in Zaatari camp before deciding to survive on his own in the Jordanian border town of Ramtha. But he returned to the camp 2 months ago.
I left the camp because my children couldn't survive the scorching heat of the summer in a tent. In Ramtha, I had to pay rent and it was so expensive. Refugees have to pay for a lot of services outside the camp, so I was forced to return to Zaatari.
When asked what they want from the international community, many of the refugees here say they want an end to the carnage in Syria. The United Nations has called the Syrian refugee crisis the worst humanitarian disaster in recent history. Almost half of all the people in Syria have been displaced, including 4 million who have been forced to leave for neighboring countries like Jordan. And according to aid agencies, there is no sign of when these refugees will be able to return home. The UN says the international community has been generous, but the scale of the Syrian crisis is so big that donors are thinking about how funding can be sustained as the conflict continues.
Already this year, people have less access to services. There are already agencies having to cut back on assistance. It's pushing them back to the camps, which are funded entirely by the international community, or pushing them even to return to Syria. And when you have families telling you, I'm going back because I can't earn a living here, and that they would prefer to live in a war zone, you know just how desperate they are.
The UN Refugee Agency says around 80% of Syrian refugees are living below the poverty line. Another 70% are sending their children out to beg and are engaging in degrading or illegal work. Many say this is a sign of how desperate people have become. Nisreen El-Shamayleh, Al Jazeera, Zaatari camp, Mafraq.